Welcome back to the Creepy Corner. This is Gonzo.
And you can call me Field or Velvar, whichever you guys
Phil,
prefer.
Velvar. I called you Marshall last time. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. It's not going to
I,
bother me. I go by
yeah.
many names.
I go by many names. This is the second ever episode of the Creepy Corner. The last episode did okay. I want my audience to know that this isn't just going to be all that I do now. I'm going to do a whole bunch of things. I'm planning on doing more Minecraft stuff later on, because I just sort of got back into that, playing it again. The reason that I quit, I'm going to give a little bit of an explanation for the reason I stopped doing Minecraft content.
We got lore, folks.
Yeah. Was that some of the people who I was doing Minecraft things with, not any of the people that showed up in videos, I think, but some of the people I was doing Minecraft content with, I had a falling out with. So I basically didn't do any content creation for like over 2 months after that shit kind of went down. And now that that's basically blown over, I have an itch to want to do it again, so I'm going to. And
Hell
no one's
yeah.
going to fucking stop me.
Oh, and I don't know if we're going to have it for this one, but we might actually have footage to look at that I recorded.
Yes! Okay, it won't be this one. It'll probably be the next one.
Oh, damn.
Sorry.
Well, hey, at the least it'll show up eventually. Hey, next time.
Yeah, next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Next time.
I have it saved onto my hard drive. I just forgot to use it. Genuinely, fuck.
Well, forget what I said. Forget what I said, everyone. It's next time you're going to see my footage of while the spooky story goes.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
So do you want to read the title of the story that we're going to be reading today?
Yes. All right. On r/no sleep by Molly a Girl 1314. That's the name of the author.
Mm-hmm.
We have, my wife has been peeking at me from around corners and behind furniture. It's gone from weird to terrifying.
All right.
So, yeah.
You just ready to jump in?
Yep, I'm ready when you are.
Are we doing it the same way as last time, where you're gonna do quotes and I'll read the story?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Works for me.
My wife, Lynn, and I have been together for 6 years and married for 11 months. Our entire history together has been very normal, and never once have I noticed any weird behaviors or red flags. I can't stress enough how out of character this whole thing is for her. Lynn is very kind, intelligent, and thoughtful. She's always been the no-nonsense type of person. Being childish or trying to scare me is not something she'd normally do. She doesn't even like watching horror movies. When we first started dating, she agreed to watch The Shining with me because she knew how much I loved horror. She was so scared that she didn't even make it through half of the movie before we had to turn it off. That's funny to me because The Shining is not a very scary movie.
No, it's kind of creepy, pretty suspenseful, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not like the, constantly frightened kind of thing, kind of scary. If that
No,
makes
it
sense.
really isn't.
It's not like there's a lot of jump scares.
I don't think there's any.
I think like the one time, like there's like a few that you could kind of classify it as, I guess, like where with like the dead girls, and that one time where there was the guy in like the dog's mask who was like giving a blowy to someone.
Something,
Yeah, that was a fucking weird moment. I like that's close enough to a jump scare. I'd count it. But yeah, it doesn't really have a lot of jump scares.
In the original book, that character in the dog costume actually shows up several times. And there's like just the one like scene that you see him in the movie. Coppola changed. It's Coppola, right? That did. Or am I crazy? No, what am I thinking of? Instead, 2001: Space Odyssey. This shows how much of a movie nerd I am.
But yeah. I mean, there's a few that you could classify that, and when what's the name of the black guy who was like the hotel manager who came up and Jack Nicholson's character axed at one point. You could count that as
Shit,
a.
I don't remember the character's
Sure.
name, but I remember that. Like,
Oh,
it's
I'm
the
gonna have to look it
only. I
up.
think it's the only murder, the only death that we see on screen in that whole movie.
I'm gonna have to look this up, otherwise it's gonna bother me.
Yeah, same. I can't look it up though because I'm recording.
Um, Dick Halloran, which is spelled Hallorann, is his name. Played by Scat Crothers.
You know, I've not seen that actor in very many other things. I think
Yeah.
he did return to reprise that role in, oh god, Doctor Sleep. Did you ever see that?
I never did, no.
It's really good. It's worth watching.
I will keep that in mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I will
Anyways,
have to add it to the list.
as we were,
Yes, where were we?
she
Halfway through The
isn't.
Shining.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She isn't into anything creepy and has never been into pranks. It's just not her cup of tea, and that's fine. But that's what was so strange about this. It's just so unlike her. I should also add that she never had any mental health issues, and as far as I'm aware, it doesn't run in her family. I know some people are able to hide their mental health problems, but in the 6 years we've been together, I think I'd have seen some sort of sign. 2 months ago, I was in the kitchen making myself some coffee before work. I was running a bit late that morning and knew I wouldn't be able to make it to Dunkin' Donuts for my usual morning fix. You're not a coffee guy, are you?
No, I've never been a fan of coffee. I like the smell, but I've never been able to get past the taste of it.
I like coffee. I like tea. I'm not picky. I know some people are like tea people, coffee people. I'm kind of like, I like hot brown stuff.
Yeah.
You give me a mug full of brown gravy. I probably wouldn't. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But it's kind of a mood thing. If I
Yeah.
just need to kickstart my day, I'll usually have a cup of coffee. If I'm like not feeling good, or if I'm feeling down on myself, my inclination is often to make myself a cup of tea because it usually
Yeah.
makes me feel better. For whatever reason, I like it.
That's fair.
So I drink a lot of tea based on that description. Anyways, I took a sip of my coffee as I hurried down the hall towards the front door, when I happened to notice Lynn peeking at me from around the corner ahead of me. I could only see her eyes and a strand of her long dark hair hanging against the wall. The rest of her body was concealed behind the corner. I nearly spilled my coffee when I saw her. I did burn the shit out of my lips.
Jeez, Lynn.
I said, wiping a few drops of coffee from my pants.
You scared the shit out of me.
She immediately popped out of view like a little kid that had been caught. I heard her scurry off towards the living room, and by the time I got to the front door, she was out of sight. It was really weird, and just totally out of character for her, like I said. But I also found it kind of funny that she was being more playful and a little less serious. I shouted that I loved her, and called her a weirdo. As I shut the door behind me, I heard her laughing. Her behavior was a bit odd, but it certainly wasn't something to call a priest over. I forgot about it by lunch, and by the time I got home, she was her normal self. I didn't bring it up, and neither did she, and life went on. The next incident happened 3 days later. It was around 2 a.m., and I had woken up to get a drink. I was standing at the kitchen island, jug of OJ in hand, when I felt a strong feeling that I was being watched. For whatever reason, I looked down at the floor and saw my wife's smiling face staring back. She was peeking at me from the other side of the island, staring up at me with wide, unblinking eyes and grinning like a Cheshire cat. I hate that.
Yep,
I
oh man.
hate that. Don't like it whenever people stare at me with the sort of like an unfriendly smile. You know the kind.
Yes. Oh man, I fucking hate that shit. And I'm told I'm a person who like stares really intensely at people, but like, oh my god, when someone has an unfriendly smile is the worst fucking thing. I hate that so much.
Yeah. I screamed, I'll admit it. Not out of irritation, but fear. For some reason, at that moment, I was scared. At the sound of my scream, Lynn scuttled backwards out of my view, her hands and feet smacking the tile floor as she hurried out of the kitchen on all fours. I didn't
What the
run after her, or even yell after her. I just stood there frozen in shock, wondering what the fuck had possessed her to do that. It took me a little longer than I'd like to admit to go back upstairs, but I did eventually. Oh, wait, I read that wrong, but I eventually did. Uh, when I got to our bedroom, Lynn was lying on her side asleep, or at least pretending to be. I stood there a while, watching her breathing to be sure she really was asleep. I had the feeling she might jump out at me the moment I got into bed, but she didn't. I climbed into bed and she didn't even move. Her breathing was soft and deep, and I was starting to wonder if I'd dreamt the whole thing. The next morning, I waited for her to come down for coffee, and after handing her a mug and kissing her cheek, I decided to ask her about it.
what was that about last night?
I asked, keeping my tone light so I didn't offend or embarrass her. She frowned over her cup of coffee, shaking her head like she had no clue what I was referring to.
You were peeking at me again from over there.
I said, pointing to the spot on the floor by the kitchen island. She followed my gaze, and when she looked back at me, she burst out laughing. She laughed so hard that I couldn't help but join her.
You creep me the fuck out sometimes, you know that?
I said. She giggled and she set her cup on the counter and wrapped her arms around my neck.
You creep me out all the time, so I guess we're even.
She teased. That's a weird thing to respond to that with.
It's a little odd.
You creep me out all the time? What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
I assume that's just she's got to assume like this is a weird fucking joke. Because like, I mean, couples do weird shit all the time. There's some psychological term I remember from high school psychology class about, there's some term for it that like adults when they like each other will do goofy childish shit together, but like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I don't know,
I mean,
man.
like, it's fun, like, whenever you're with your partner and you're just messing around, like, sometimes you do goofy stuff together because it's fun to be able to just be loose and goofy and fully comfortable around another person. That, for sure, is true. But to respond with that kind of inquiry where it's like, hey, you actually scared me and I thought that was super weird, to respond to that with like, well, you creep me out all the time, so I guess we're even, is weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, like that.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fucking weird.
That makes me think. I don't know if this is true or not, but I have a hunch here. That maybe the thing that keeps scaring the husband, whose name hasn't been said yet, is also scaring her, and it's like a shapeshifter kind of thing that's like sleeping in their basement or something. Because maybe something is like jumping out and scaring her all the time, but it's disguising itself as him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, I mean the only thing that like goes against that, I guess, is if I'm remembering correctly from what was you just read like a minute ago, is that like this is a relatively new phenomenon. So it's like, what the fuck happened?
And she's never brought it up to him the way that he's bringing it up to her.
So like, I mean, that's kind of a weird coincidence to happen, but like, yeah, that would track actually.
Maybe, but I'm probably getting too far ahead.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm already thinking, this sounds like changeling bullshit or something like that. But
Something
we'll
like
see.
that, yeah.
We'll figure it out. Where were we? You creep
Uh,
me the fuck out.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah. We said our goodbyes and left for work. As I drove, I kept thinking about how creepy it had been seeing her grinning at me from behind the island like that. The sound her hands made on the floor as she crawled away. I told myself she was just trying to be silly, just trying to join me in my love of all things horror. It's not like I was afraid of her, but it still didn't sit right with me. I started seeing her peeking at me more and more. Sometimes she'd be peeking out from behind the couch or living room curtains. Once she even managed to get inside her grandfather's old trunk that sits on the foot of our bed. I might not have even known she was there at all, had the trunk's old hinges not given her away.
Ooh.
I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
She'd
Okay.
had... Yeah?
So I don't know. This kind of so it reminds me of something that I learned a while back. Is that like schizophrenia doesn't like hallucinations in general
Mhm.
don't tend to manifest as like these super complicated things that like stick around as you look at it. It's more like something that happens in the corner of your eye.
Oh,
At least
yeah.
this is what I've been told. And that is just like the vibe I'm getting. Like you're seeing someone in the corner of your eye that like as soon as you like notice it, it's gone. I mean, probably a coincidence, but that's what I'm thinking. Anyway, continue.
Well, I can give you experience as someone who occasionally has hallucinations.
Oh,
That is
jeez.
exactly how it's like. It's like suddenly you're like listening to the news, like half listening to the news and the TV in the room with you while you're doing something, and it seems like they're talking specifically about you on the news.
Yeah, yeah.
And, or like you're seeing things at the corner of your eye, and you're like hearing whispers in the dark whenever there shouldn't be anything there.
Mhm.
The number of times that I have gotten out of bed and searched the entirety of my upstairs because I swear I heard footsteps, and whenever there was couldn't have been anything there.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Now some of
And
that is because I'm a highly anxious person. I'm not like
yeah,
schizophrenic, but I
yeah.
have had moments like that in my lifetime.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing about the human mind is it's weird. Like if you stare into darkness long enough, you're gonna start seeing things just because the human brain needs interaction.
And fuck
So
me
it's
if
like,
I
yeah,
haven't watched, listened, and read enough horror shit in my lifetime to fucking poison the well for any kind of sanity.
yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. But yeah, oh man, it just reminds me of one time when I was like a little kid. Because I in my childhood bedroom had like a loft with a ladder leading up to it. And this will mark my age, but if any of those listening remember Beanie Babies, I had a bunch of those up there, and I swear I could see like the shine in their eyes peeking through, like in the darkness, and I just fucking stayed up all night looking dead into that because it just looked like little shining eyes in the dark, and that was fucking terrifying. I'm like, nope, nope, I'm done. I'm turning those all around in the morning.
There is an old story from an old preacher that my family used to listen to a lot from back in the day, where he had gone and stayed at someone's house for a speaking engagement that he was doing at a church.
Yeah.
And he saw the shape in the darkness in the room with him, and he was freaking out. He was like rebuking it and calling to God for to support because he thought it was like a demon or something coming to
Yeah.
fucking fuck with him or something. And
Yeah.
what he did this for hours, like chanting at it and praying to God to make it go away. And then the little bit of sun peeked through the blinds, and he saw that it was his fucking raincoat.
Yep. I mean, there's a reason that like it's creepy when you like have that pile of clothes sitting on a chair and then like you wake up in the middle of the night and just in the darkness
It looks like
it's
a
the
guy. It
yeah
looks like a guy
it's
sitting in your chair staring at you sleep.
yeah it's just that classic Homo sapien brain of like, oh, I'm gonna use my pattern recognition abilities to see something even if it isn't there. It sucks. Why
Right.
did we have to? Why was that evolutionarily necessary? I hate it.
Because saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah. Yeah, tigers basically were like, nah, we're gonna clown on your ass. So we had to become anxiety monkeys about it.
Right. But
Anyway, where were we?
anywhere, where were we? She'd had the lid propped up just enough so that only half of her face peeked through. She'd been grinning like an excited toddler. It was unnerving. I didn't even know what to say to her. All I could do was stare. When I finally found my voice, I asked her why on earth was she doing this. She didn't answer, but she had slowly closed the lid, shutting herself inside the trunk. I just walked away, feeling disturbed. I didn't understand why she was doing it, but it clearly made her happy. I just hoped she would tire of the game quickly. Lynn didn't peek at me for the next 2 weeks. I started to think she was done, and her weird prank, and I was. Oh, sorry, I misread that. She was done with her weird prank, and I was relieved. We were watching a show on Netflix one night. Shout out to Netflix. And I jokingly said that I hadn't seen her peeking at me lately, and that she must have given up on her spy game. She looked up at me with a small smile and said,
Maybe I've just got. Maybe I've just gotten better at it.
"Ooh, fuck that."
Yep. Nope.
And of course,
Nope.
my dog starts barking.
Unnamed narrator. You need to kill your wife right now. I'm sorry.
Yes, you need to. You need to say that you're going to get some milk and then burn the house down.
Whatever it is, it ain't worth it, bro.
Whatever it is. I don't care how hot she is. She's crazier than she is hot, dude. Get
Yeah.
out. Leave.
If that is her, if we're still the realm of logic.
If she hasn't, like, replaced the wife.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything, but I wondered whether or not she was joking. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. Was she still peeking at me when I wasn't looking and I just hadn't noticed? And if so, what the hell was she getting out of this? I started to feel paranoid, constantly checking whether she was from around the corner or behind a door. I was jumpy whenever I was home, and she wasn't in full view of me. I felt stupid and a little crazy. But after a few weeks without another incident, I began to relax. I stopped checking behind furniture and walls and told myself it was just a bad memory. Then a few days ago, things got so much worse. Lynn left to go to a friend's, and I lounged on the couch and played a couple games on my laptop. Around 9 p.m., I hopped in the shower, and as I was washing the soap from my hair, I felt that awful feeling that I was being watched. Fuck this. Fuck,
Nope.
this is literally a nightmare I've had.
No, fuck that.
I
Yep.
slowly opened my eyes and almost had a fucking heart attack. Lynn was peeking from behind the shower curtain. Her entire head stretched into the shower, leaving just her body outside. Her long dark hair hung against the curtain. The ends dripped with water. Her mouth hung open in a terrible grin, eyes wide and red as if she hadn't blinked in a while. I screamed and jumped back against the wall. She didn't move, nor did her smile waver. Her makeup ran down her cheeks into 2 black streaks. She looked giddy and completely deranged. I was fucking terrified. Yeah, me
that.
too,
Fuck
bud.
What the fuck? What the actual... Has he ever actually seen... So I think we can, as the wife was gone, we can pretty clearly say that this is some sort of imposter, because someone quick play the
Either
play the
that or
sus
she never
noise.
actually left. She just lied about leaving and like drove around the corner.
Yeah, which is possible, but again, really fucking weird. Yeah, like, could it be a mental health thing? Probably, because this is beyond normal.
Listen, I have had ups and downs in mental health. I've never felt the need to stalk the people I live with and scare the fuck out of them all the time.
Oh, I agree. I've got some pretty terrible mental health moments, but like I know there can be worse, and like that, like I'm running out of like rational rational excuses for this, and like that's it. Like it's just like she has
Well,
some sort of mental health deal that is absolutely crazy. I'm of the opinion that this is some sort of changeling or mimic like creature thing. Because I mean, it's no sleep. It's a scary story.
right. Anything
It's
can
not out of
happen on
the
a no sleep story.
so it's like this has got to be some kind of thing. Has he ever actually seen the full body of this creature, or is it just the head of his wife? Because I know it mentioned like the sound her feet and hands made when she was
Well,
running away on all fours. But like,
yeah, fuck, I don't know.
so like that makes me almost wonder if it's only like a very specific part, and the disguise is getting worse on it, right? Because it's
Right.
its eyes don't look like they blinked in a while. Its makeup is running.
Hmm.
And like I almost wonder like if it's like trying to sneak up on him in a way where it's like he just keeps catching it before cuz so fun fact about animals cuz I'm a fucking animal nerd.
Yeah.
Most predators will not attack you if you're looking at them. Like especially for predation because the risk of attacking you and getting injured is just not worth the risk of getting food. Almost always, in fact, it's common that if you have to move through areas with tigers in like India, a lot of people will wear Halloween masks backwards because it'll trick the tigers into thinking they're being watched.
I've heard about this before. Yeah.
So I'm almost wondering if it's something like that where it's like, oh, if he's looking at me, I can't attack him
Mm.
because like every time he catches it and like then makes some sort of audible thing, it leaves. I don't know. Like this is speculation, but
But if
I
that's the
almost
case, he didn't see her staring at him for like 2 weeks, right? If it was
yeah, which
really getting closer and closer to him, why wouldn't it
mm,
have like got him already, right?
yeah. So like that's the only thing that where that like kind of falls apart.
Hmm.
Unless it was gone for whatever reason. But then again, it's speculation. But like that's what I think of at least.
I like how we
Anyway,
started going on and talking about a tangent to let the fear sort of wash away a little bit.
yeah.
Because that scared the fuck out of me reading that, not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's creepy.
I
Honestly,
hate that.
this is way better than
This is
the
way
last
better than the
one.
last story.
This one deserves number one. I'm not gonna lie
And
so far.
last story, I kind of wished had a part two where we got a little bit more of a payoff because
I
it seemed like there
agree.
was a lot of like details and things that were leading up to like a bigger story, like a larger narrative,
Yeah.
and I don't think there is any. I think that it just ends like that.
Which is a shame. I feel
Yeah,
like it could have benefited from a part two.
definitely. Anyway, where we were, we stood like that
Uh,
for a few moments, neither of us saying a word. Finally, after what felt like forever, she slowly pulled her head back out of the shower, and I watched her blurry figure through the curtain as she moved backwards towards the bathroom door.
can I here? So notice it says that she moved backwards. She backed up. She didn't. She whatever it was. Again, with the whole predator theory I'm going with. it it refused to turn its back on her, which again that sounds like an animal.
Yeah,
That sounds like an animal who doesn't want to get got itself.
for real.
So
It sounds like that's something like a big cat would do.
exactly, like yeah, like that's the recommendation when if you ever like run into a big cat in the wild is you don't turn your back on it.
Yeah, because
it's it yeah, it's the same reason. Like, if you have a pet cat, it's more likely to like jump out at you and like play get you, or if it's a dick, like actually sink its claws into you if you turn your back on it. Like, it's doing it
ah,
like domestic cats tend to do that like playfully, but like it's part of their play is like learning. Okay, don't turn your back on a potential threat, and not to attack something that can see you. Anyway, I'll try not to
no, no,
go
no.
on
You're
more
fine.
more
This is a
more
podcast.
tangents.
It's a podcast where we're meant to go on tangents and talk about things. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
makes
I
for a
just don't
better
want to.
conversation.
Yeah, I just don't want to like stop you every 2 minutes to be,
That's
or well,
okay.
every like paragraph and be like, wait a minute.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
Yeah, everyone's gonna learn what I learned watching Animal Planet growing up.
Fuck.
They do not resist.
A second later, the bathroom door slammed shut, hard enough to rattle the mirror. I screamed again and jumped out of the shower to lock the door. I stayed inside the bathroom for over an hour. Maybe I overreacted to some of you, but joke or not, I wasn't going to put up with the crazy shit anymore. Good for you, bud. Get the fuck
Yeah,
out of that house.
setting healthy boundaries.
That's what I kept telling myself as I placed in my bathroom, as I paced, not placed, in my bathroom, stopping to listen at the door every few minutes. Suddenly, oh fuck, I think I know what's happening.
Oh
Suddenly,
boy.
I heard a muffled sound, and I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, straining to listen. I couldn't hear anything, but I envisioned Lynn standing on the other side of the door, giggling at her joke. I felt a surge of anger. I was beyond pissed at being made to feel scared in my own house, and made to hide in the bathroom for an hour. All for what? Some joke? If it was a joke, it was an awful one.
What the fuck, Lynn?
I snapped.
This shit is getting really fucking annoying.
I waited for her to apologize or to call me a jerk, but instead I heard a faint moan, so quiet I wondered if I heard it at all, and then complete silence.
Lynn?
I called out, not able to even hide the shakiness in my voice. I got no response, just my own heavy breathing.
I swear to God, just fucking stop it.
I yelled, pounding my fist on the door. I waited for her to cuss me out, something I would expect from me talking to her like that. I never screamed at her before. But there was nothing, just the occasional drip from the shower head. I won't deny that I was scared, too afraid to open the damn door and face my own wife. I waited another 30 minutes or so, which feels like a fucking lifetime when you're scared. I decided I wasn't going to spend the night hiding in my bathroom, so I got down on my knees and peered under the door. I almost expected to see her face peeking back at me, but thankfully I didn't. I could see straight down the hallway to the top of the stairs, but no Lynn. I didn't know if I should be happy about that or not. I looked for a few minutes, waiting to see her head pop up over the top step, but it never came. I stood up, my hand hovering over the door and mentally preparing myself to open it. I slowly turned the lock with shaky fingers. Then, and was about to yank it open when I heard a sound that still makes me feel nauseous when I think about it. Oh, fuck, what is it? I think I know what it is, but I'm not going to say. A moan, louder than before, but this time I was able to tell just where it was coming from. I turned my head to the closet door as if in slow motion and locked eyes with my wife who was peeking out at me from the slight gap. She had been in the room with him the whole time.
That's Wait, how? He said he. So, this thing can teleport, right?
I
Or
don't
there's more
think
than
it is. I
or
think it's just really sneaky.
that, or it. So, because it specifically said through the bathroom curtain, he watched it walk out the door. So it can either teleport or there is more than one, and I don't know which is
And the
worse.
door slammed.
Yeah, and the door slammed. He watched it walk out.
Ugh.
But then, yeah, so both of those possibilities are terrible, and I hate it. Because, because that's what it said. It said that he watched her walk out backwards through the door, and then the door slammed shut.
Either that or she like backed up, slammed the door, and then extremely quietly, because he hadn't pulled the curtain open or anything yet.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm assuming from the description, it's like one of those like partially see-through ones, or at the
Because
very
it's like
least, like the
And this
light
also supports
silhouetted.
what you said earlier. Whenever
Yeah,
you said that he hasn't seen the entire body yet, maybe
yeah.
it's like fucked up. He's just out
Hmm.
like a blurry like silhouette of her.
Yeah, with something that like you could approximate it for a human silhouette if
Mm.
you know just saw that, which honestly makes my skin crawl and I hate it.
I
I
hate
hate body
everything
horror
about
so
this.
much.
Yes, this is a better story.
Yes, this is
So,
so much better. This is leagues better. I don't know how this isn't number one.
her eyes were still wide as ever, and her mouth was hanging open in the most grotesque, gaping smile I'd ever seen. I didn't even scream. I was too scared for even that. Her hands were clasped to her chest, body trembling with sheer delight, as if she could barely contain her excitement. A short, raspy moan bubbled up from her throat, deep and raw, sending a shiver through my entire body. Somehow I found the ability to pull the bathroom door open and ran as fast as I could all the way down the steps, snagging my keys and phone from the table in the living room before running outside to my car. Did he ever get dressed during all of this? Because
He didn't say so.
I'm
He's
imagining him like
running butt
running out
naked.
buck naked to his car with his phone and keys in his hand.
And yeah, and at least like right there, it says that he did see like at least her torso. So like, yeah, it can pretty well mimic humans from that account then. So yeah, he's like butt naked, running away with his keys and phone, which I can't imagine a man who goes to the bathroom without his phone. Like, what a fucking psychopath!
Right. Well, I mean, like, I don't take mine into the bathroom with me because I don't want the fog to do water damage to my phone
Yeah,
because I hear that's a
that's
bad thing
fair.
to do.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. But like, which again, he said by his own admission, which I mean, when you're afraid, time can drag on longer than you think, and
Hmm.
he never said there was a clock in there. So, but by at least to him, it felt like he was in there for 90 minutes with this thing.
Hmm.
I mean, it could have been shorter or longer, probably shorter. Just, human fear tends to make it, feel like longer, but he at least he believes he was in there with this thing for 90 minutes watching him.
Fuck everything about that.
Yes.
Oh my god. All
And
right.
whatever it is, just like wants to freak him out because it doesn't keep trying to like it doesn't like try to get him or kill him or any of that. It's just freaking him out. Although it kind of acts like an animal. Anyway,
It kind of
where
reminds me of those monsters that like don't actually get nourished from like killing and eating you, but are
yeah,
nourished by causing you mental trauma, like
yeah, it
terrifying
just
you.
it just wants to cause distress in you for some reason.
Continuing on, I could hear
Yes,
her shrill laughter behind me, but I didn't hear her getting closer. I didn't bother shutting the front door. I drove away from the house faster than I legally should have, shivering the entire time, either from fear or the cold, because he didn't put on any clothes.
yeah.
Maybe a little of both. I hadn't grabbed a coat or even a pair of shoes. I was still in my box. Okay. I was
Okay.
still in
Well,
my
he wasn't completely
boxers,
naked.
and my hair was still damp. I drove straight to my brother Chris's house, about 40 minutes away, ignoring any and every call and text I got. I didn't check my phone until I was safely parked in my brother's driveway. Lynn had called 4 times and sent a flurry of texts, all wondering where I'd gone and why I left like that.
What the fuck?
So this bitch is crazy. If it's not a monster, then she's just nuts.
Yeah, which again, if it is just her, like if she is just a person, how the fuck did she sneak out of the bathroom and then was able to get into like that closet thing? Like how do you do that?
Right, for
Like that
sure.
seems like a physical from what at least what I'm imagining, that sounds like a physical impossibility.
Unless she's doing some like crazy ass Circus Olay bullshit.
Yeah, which like in that case, if she's that flexible, that's got to be some wild fun times in the bedroom, but still not worth it. Not worth it at all.
I threw my phone at the dash in a rage, furious at her nonchalant attitude. My brother and his wife were surprised to see me, especially dressed in just a pair of boxers, but told me to stay as long as I needed. Chris lent me some clothes and asked me what happened. I told him Lynn and I had a fight, but didn't get into the details. I didn't want him to think I was overreacting, leaving my wife over a prank, even if it was a strange one. I mean, hadn't I encouraged her for years to lighten up instead of being so serious all the time? I had wanted her to relax and loosen up, but this was definitely not what I had in mind. I tried to sleep on their sofa, but my brain wouldn't let me sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lynn's face staring at me from inside the closet. Knowing she'd been in there with me the entire time made my skin crawl. Yeah, I know that feeling for sure.
Yeah.
She'd never left the fucking bathroom at all. Instead, she slipped inside the closet and slammed the bathroom door shut to fool me.
I mean,
The mere thought
I
of
don't
going back home gave me anxiety, yeah?
I don't know. Like maybe like the way he says that, like maybe it's possible just with how the bathroom is set up, but again, like I feel like you'd notice the closet door shutting as well. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy.
I feel like I would notice too.
Yeah, like that
Like,
that
especially
feels like
if
something.
you just scared the fucking shit out of me. I feel like
'Cause,
I'd
yeah,
be like hyper aware of everything that's going on.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you scare someone, you're like hyper. You become very hyper aware of all sorts of stuff. In fact, people are actually, when frightened, people are better at memorizing like small details than they are normally. So it's like you'd think you would notice. I don't know.
Right, yeah, you'd think. I feel like I would.
So again, I'm leaning on that's not actually his wife, or maybe his wife is possessed or something. But
I mean, like, possessed would be a good explanation.
yeah,
But then
it's really
how?
fucking weird. Yeah.
People don't just
Which,
get possessed out of nowhere, do they?
yeah, you wouldn't think so, but like, I don't know. I don't think we have that long to like get. Oh no, yeah, this one's longer, so we do have a little bit to
It's
get
not
into the
that
details.
much more. I think we're about like a little over halfway through.
Yeah, so we have some time to figure something out.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's yeah, this is stumping me on like
Same.
if it isn't a foreign entity, if it is in fact his wife, I am stumped on how she's doing this. And it's like it has to be a mental deal
He, this,
anyway.
Here's something to
Yeah.
consider. Maybe the guy is just crazy.
That could be possible. He could just be fucking crazy.
And maybe he's imagining all of this.
Yeah, because again, like we both agreed, it does kind of sound like hallucinations.
Yeah, it
But
definitely seems like that. A little bit at
yeah,
least.
yeah.
I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Chris ended up giving me a sleeping pill so I was able to get a little rest. My sleep was filled with terrible dreams, all of Lynn's smiling face. I woke up just as the sun started to rise. My sore body ached from the sofa and I felt drained. I knew I'd have to call Lynn at some point, but I didn't know what to say to her. I wouldn't be going home. Oh, I forgot to close my door. Hold on. I'm getting messages about it.
Yeah, probably not the best story to leave the door open to. Granted, I'm sitting in my basement,
The
so that
problem
doesn't
is
help
everyone
me.
in my house can hear me talking on here into the microphone
Ah,
if my door isn't shut. I
gotcha.
thought I'd shut it, but it was just like barely cracked open still.
Yeah.
Where was I?
Mere thought of
I
going
woke up.
back. Woke up. The sun started to rise. Sore body. You were about to say I wouldn't be going home unless she gave me her word she would never do any more creepy shit.
Ah.
That's where you were.
I just wanted my wife back. Her normal, serious self never looked so good to me. I was contemplating calling her and telling her that when the familiar feeling came over me. I was being watched. I was staring at the ceiling, my heart in my throat. I didn't want to look away, but the longer I ignored the feeling, the worse it got. My eyes drifted away from the ceiling almost on their own. Her face was pressed up against the window beside the couch, staring down at me with that same gaping smile, drool dribbling down her lips, leaving 2 long streaks down the glass. I didn't know how long she'd been there, but something told me she'd been there quite a while, possibly all night. I didn't bother screaming, though I was afraid anger trumped any fear I felt at that moment. I jumped up from the couch and pounded my palm against the glass.
Len, are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with you? Just go home.
I shouted.
Now!
She didn't move, and her ghastly expression never changed. If anything, her smile only grew, as if she had never been more elated. I could hear Chris and his wife moving around upstairs, as if Lynn could hear them from her place outside. Her head twitched slightly in their direction, and she began to close her mouth slowly. Chris called my name from upstairs, obviously concerned. I turned to see him and his wife Rebecca hurrying down the steps. Well, thank you, Story. I didn't notice this earlier, but he never named the brother's wife. Not that she's super important or anything, but
Yeah.
just because this is a spouse of your brother doesn't mean that she doesn't deserve a name, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, as I was saying.
At the very least, it's nice detail to have, because many authors would just be like, "Ah, yes, Chris's wife," and then
yes.
left it good.
He's like, good. I tried to explain to Chris and Rebecca about waking up to see Lynn watching me through their window. They were skeptical. Who wouldn't be? Chris and I went outside to the spot in front of the window, but there were no footprints in the dirt, just a slight indent. Animal, probably. Huh. Chris guessed, and I didn't argue. He and Rebecca assumed I dreamt the entire episode, but they didn't understand, and I was too tired to explain it to them.
It doesn't explain the drool on the window, though.
No, it doesn't. Maybe it was hard to tell whenever her breath wasn't there to silhouette it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ugh, I hate that image.
Again, with the slight indent, it doesn't sound human, whatever it is. It just... And, there's only so much you can go off of that's not, explicitly stated, but I'm just it doesn't sound like a human.
No, it really feels inhuman.
Yeah, whatever it is, I'm... initially I was maybe possession, but again, I don't really think that's it. I think it's some sort of changeling or mimic-like creature that is doing this. That would be my guess.
Ugh.
I'm not a betting man, but that would be my thing.
But here's the thing, it's not assaulted him or anything yet.
Yeah.
It's just scaring him.
Yeah, which it's why does it want him terrified? And that's the thing, it didn't, for 2 weeks, it didn't bother him until his wife made that joke of, oh, I just got better about it.
Ugh.
And then he got kind of freaked out about it again, and then it happened again. If I'm remembering correctly.
No, I think that tracks, yeah.
So maybe, for whatever reason, this is, whatever it is just attracted to him in distress.
Right. Something's feeding off of his anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Maybe his wife did spook him in that first scare, and whatever this is just took on the visage of his wife and is continuing to do it to feed on that fear somehow.
And that case, what happened to the real Lynn?
Mm-hmm. Which is uncomfy.
Yeah, uncomfy for sure. I called out of work that day and turned my cell off. I didn't want to face Lynn. Just talking to her was too much for me at that point. I really started to believe something was irreversibly wrong with her. that no matter what promises she made, we'd never be the same again. The thought saddened me to my core. I cried most of the morning. By noon, I figured I was ready to confront her. Give her one last chance to explain herself. I thought I could at least give her I'm sorry, I'm not be able to read straight for some reason. I could at least give her that after 6 years, I told myself. I turned my phone on and saw the dozens of texts she'd sent me, all from a seemingly concerned wife. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Can we talk? I love you. Please call me. I'm really worried. Can you just answer? Just come home.
And more of the same. All texts telling me she loved me and she wanted me home. How worried she was. Not a damn one addressing the crazy shit she pulled, like she hadn't been acting like a character from a Stephen King book. Her texts were different. She normally texted novels just to tell me to pick up a loaf of bread. You'd think she'd have more to say to me after her bizarre shenanigans. I know it probably seems childish to some of you who are miles away from this situation, but if you saw the way Lynn had looked at me, how she scampered away on all fours like some wild animal, grinning at me from inside the closet like a lunatic, then I think you'd find my reaction was warranted. I ended up staying with Chris and Rebecca for another night. I didn't wake up yesterday until afternoon, and thankfully I didn't see Lynn's face watching me from the window.
I don't want to pry because it's not my place. But is this fight something that can be mended? That was Rebecca speaking.
Rebecca asked. She made us both a sandwich for lunch, and I knew she was to breach the subject without seeming to be nosy.
I don't know. She's like a different person,
I said, choosing my words carefully. I still wasn't ready for her or Chris to know the full extent of the batshit craziness I had been dealing with.
People change, Ben. But she's still the same woman you married. Maybe you both just need to talk through your issues. Whatever's going on, I'm sure it can be fixed.
She said, ever the peacemaker.
I think it's beyond that now. I don't think talking would help. I just don't trust her.
Oh, sorry, I was scratching my fucking beard.
Oh, you're good.
I said. The words stung in my heart. I missed and loved my wife. But how could I live with someone like that? Living in constant fear didn't sound too appealing.
Lynn loves you. She has to be absolutely crushed,
she said.
I don't know about that,
I said.
Well, she certainly seemed like it to me. I've never seen her so upset. Very much unlike the Lynn I know.
Rebecca said, shaking her head sadly. What? It took a full minute for her words to really sink in, and when they did, I felt dread worming its way through my skin.
Wait, what do you mean? You saw her? You saw Lynn?
I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. Rebecca nodded casually, as if that fact wasn't nightmare fuel. Maybe for her, it wasn't.
She stopped by this morning, just after Chris left for work,
she said, cleaning the plates from the table.
I didn't see her car, though. Maybe she took an Uber or something. Beck, what did she say? Did she come inside?
I asked, sweat starting to break out on my forehead. I began looking around, examining corners as though a predator lurked behind them.
No, she just asked if you were awake yet, and I said that you weren't. I asked if she wanted me to wake you, but she said no, just to let you sleep.
She said as she washed the dishes.
That's all? She didn't say anything else?
I asked.
No, she looked awful though. Like she hadn't slept in days. I think you should call her.
I got up from the table and thanked Rebecca for lunch. I felt a little bit better at the knowledge that at least she hadn't come inside. Still, I needed to double check that the doors were locked. I sat for a while trying to figure out what to do next. I didn't want to go home, but I felt that I owed it to Lynn to help her if I could. Hadn't I sworn oath to love and honor her through sickness and in health? Clearly, she was very sick. If she was sick, which I truly believed she was, I had to try and get her the help she needed. But I didn't even know where to start. I didn't want to call the police, and besides, what the hell was I going to tell them? That my wife was peeking at me? That she was being creepy? As bizarre as she'd been, she still hadn't committed any crime. Not yet, anyway.
I mean, technically she was prowling outside your brother's house, but yeah.
The police...
You don't have definitive proof.
Right, that's true. The police would have probably said that I was overreacting, but this wasn't some prank. It felt wrong, dangerous even, like something sinister lurked beneath her smile. I knew, as her husband, I was still within my rights to have her committed, but what if she simply acted normal in their presence? Ooh, sorry, excuse me, sorry. She'd obviously been able to fool Rebecca into thinking she was just a concerned wife. As long as the doctors didn't find her a danger to herself or others, they'd have no other choice but to release her after 72 hours. I felt lost and overwhelmed. So I did what any husband in my position would do. I called her mother. I didn't want to, believe me.
Yeah, mother, I know that feels.
I believe that's pronounced Marianne.
Yeah, that looks like a Marianne.
Her mother, Marianne, and I were never on the best of terms. We'd never fought or anything like that. Now, I'm going to be particularly interested to hear what she has to say here.
Yeah. This sounds like it'll be interesting, because if there's like any history of weird shit, like if her mom was present in her life, then she would know something's up.
Totally. She just wasn't a very warm person, and wasn't really easy to get along with. She hardly ever smiled, and when she did, only her lips would move into a thin-lipped smile, never her eyes as blank as before. She gave off this aura that felt like she was permanently on the offensive. What sounds like someone who maybe has spent their entire life getting creeped out by their daughter to me.
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a bad case of RBF, which, you know, I dated a girl who had that once, and it was always interesting because it's like, oh man, hey, are you all right? And she's like, no, I'm having a great time. It's just like, yeah, you just look like you want to fucking murder me.
Some people's regular, normal face makes them look unfriendly, and it's just an unfortunate fact of biology.
Yeah, it's a shame because typically they're not. They're just fine, but yeah, I can't read faces as it is.
For me, I've always had the problem of I don't have resting bitch face. I have like a resting dope face, where it seems like I'm just sort of like dopily, like lazily not thinking about anything blankly all the time. Whenever I'm a very thoughtful person, generally speaking. But I've had a lot of people just assume I was dumb without ever even talking to me. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like a lot of people I've worked with and other things just assumed I wasn't very smart. And they're like genuinely like fucking surprised whenever they speak to me and find out that I'm like do all these different things, that I've learned about all this different stuff, and I'll talk about like random facts and things I've learned, and they'll be like, oh wait, you're not a dumbass? I'm like, no, never was.
For me, let's put it this way. I went to a therapist once, and they're like, wow, you're very good at masking. Probably the best person I've ever seen at it. I'm like, is that a good thing? And they're like, no, that's very bad, actually. Oh, no. Oh, no.
See, I've never been able to like really mask how I feel about things. Like, My problem, like psychologically, has always been the fact that, like, I can only like. It's what's weird is like I have a hard time feeling more than one emotion at once.
Yeah.
Like, if something makes me sad and angry, I might default to just one or the other, even though I'm feeling both.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's just that like whenever I feel like a really strong emotion outside of joy, because it was, I don't want to, I would never go far to like say that like my parents were abusive or anything like that,
Mm.
but I would say it was heavily frowned upon to feel pretty much anything but joy.
Ugh.
So, I mean, if I'm feeling like mad or upset and I like have to be around people, like my go-to is, or like even in like a crisis situation, like my go-to is just to disassociate like really hard. Like I can just like autopilot through that shit. Like if someone is in distress around me, I just immediately disassociate, and I'll like very practically go through a problem, but it's like emotionally I'm not there very much.
Mm.
But like I can solve the problem. I can like give someone a hug and say they're there, but like I don't know what to do outside of that. I'm just like emotionally gone.
Right, for sure.
Now in
Yeah,
private, like I'll cry my eyes out, but
I
yeah.
don't cry very much.
Yeah.
And now some of that is just from the like idea that I have to be like tough. Like I'm more likely to get really mad than I am to be really sad. The depression
Agreed.
doesn't show up as like the sadness doesn't show up as tears very often. It usually just
Yeah.
I usually only cry whenever I'm really stressed out, actually.
Yeah, there's I mean, hell, it's like it's kind of because like my girlfriend, at least compared to me, like cries a lot. She's very emotional in that way, and
Mm.
it's like it's like it's almost fascinating on some level because it's like, wow, I never get that emotional range on stuff. Like it's like all the time at like movies, like she'll cry about something. It's just like she thinks like there's all these sad movies. And it's like, man, like I've only ever like cried for two movies, and like one was Schindler's List, which that one's obvious.
Mm.
Um,
Never seen the whole thing.
yeah, it's a rough one. Um, and the second was End of Watch because my dad is a police officer, and like when I watched that movie, like like that was like 2 or 3 days after he was involved in a shooting and nearly died.
Oh my god.
Uh, yeah, like the bullet missed his head by about 2 inches.
Oh
So
Jesus.
yeah, so like that one fucked me up. Really, really good movie, but that fucked me up. I think like the only movie that like got close to making me cry like that was All Quiet on the Western Front, just because I raised horses and the scene where the horses started getting shelled that kind of had me distraught, but didn't cry.
Mm.
But yeah,
For real. I think the last movie I cried at was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
that's a good one.
I wish I was kidding, dude. That fucks me up whenever Yondu's funeral. Oh, spoiler alert: Yondu dies in that movie, and whenever they
In
have
case
their
y'all haven't
like
seen
haven't
Guardians of the
seen the
Galaxy 2.
6-year-old movie Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Um,
Yeah, I don't know what to do for y'all at that point.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, that is pretty fucking sad,
Dude, that messed
Mister.
me
I'm
up.
Mary
I'm Mary
Poppins.
Poppins, y'all.
Oh,
Anyways,
that was
back
good.
back to the story.
Yes, we should probably get back to it. We
Yeah,
kind of
that was
strayed.
a long talk, like it was a long tangent, but that's okay. I'd
Um,
only met
Marion.
her, yeah. I'd only met her twice, and both times were for such short visits. I got the impression she didn't approve of me for her daughter. Lynn always ushered us out quickly, as she didn't want me to feel uncomfortable, which I was grateful for. Being in her mother's company felt almost unbearable, like walking on glass. I was glad when we moved 3 states away, so we didn't have to see each other often. I was happy to avoid the woman, but I needed her help. I really didn't want to talk to her at all, but I had to talk to someone, and someone who knew Lynn better than I did. So I grit my teeth, and I did what I had to. Does Lynn just not have any fucking friends? What's up?
Yeah, it's so weird, and I don't know. Like, maybe this is like just my perspective, but like I get like the shower was probably just like such a creepy incident that I wouldn't even consider it like the straw that broke the camel's back, but like it was just such a fucking wigged out thing to do.
It was
That
the
like
AT round that blasted the camel's back out.
yeah, it was yeah, it was yeah. But it was like I don't know. Like I feel like if they were perhaps like maybe more communicative of like, hey, seriously, like what the fuck was that?
Like,
Like
hey, this thing that you're doing, I hate it. Stop it now.
like either that could solve the issue or because I mean like he yelled at so like the one thing that I don't get, right, is because he like explicitly said that he yelled through the door and like I their house, let's be real, their house probably isn't that big that if someone's yelling in like the upstairs bathroom you can probably hear them. So if we're still going with like the theory that this isn't Lynn and that his wife is like still there somewhere, it brings up the question how she didn't hear it because she was texting or whatever is posing as her was texting him. And again, he mentioned that
The 3-word messages, yeah.
yeah, so it's like is that even Lynn? Is Lynn still alive? And it's like like I don't like the idea that something could replace your wife after you've been with her for 6 years and 11 months.
Well, maybe
So
we're
it's like
about to get a little bit more enlightened as to
yeah, what the fuck is
what the
going
fuck
on?
is going on with Lynn here with the
Yeah.
conversation. It starts off with a
Well,
quote, so.
yes. So yeah, we're starting at the quote. Yeah. Yes,
She answered, already sounding irritated.
Marianne, it's me, Ben. Do you have a minute to talk?
I asked. I could hear her cluck her tongue in irritation.
I'm in the middle of writing some checks, but if you insist, I suppose I can spare a moment. What is it that you want to discuss, Benjamin?
Why do she sound so bitchy? Well, she's written as bitchy. She said coolly.
Question mark.
Question mark.
It's about Lynn. She's been acting strangely, and I was wondering if you had any idea whether there was something.
I was quickly interrupted.
It's a bit difficult to follow your rambling, Benjamin. God, I fucking hate that so much. What is it you want from me?
She asked. I could almost see her standing there in her thin sweater and slacks, tapping her fingernails impatiently on the table. So his mother-in-law is Hillary Clinton, I see.
Is unpleasant. At the very least. I wanted to know if you'd ever noticed any odd behavior or possibly any mental health issues.
I asked. There was a long, uncomfortable pause that I couldn't tell was because she was just thinking. Or something else. Finally, after a few seconds, she spoke.
I'm not sure if this is one of your jokes, Benjamin. God, why did she have to
One of his
use
jokes.
his whole name? What does that mean, one of your jokes, Benjamin? But if you don't find the humor in it, but if so, I don't find the humor in it. Now, I do have business to attend to, as I've said, so if you don't mind.
She said, but I cut her off before she could get rid of me.
Marianne, it's not a joke. I'm sincerely concerned about Lynn's mental health. Her behavior has been very erratic lately. I'm worried about her, and I figured as her mother, you would be as well.
I said, my frustration evident in my voice.
If you're truly concerned, then I suggest you get the health professionals involved. I don't know what you expect of me.
She snapped. I could tell she was seconds away from hanging up, and for some reason I was desperate not to let her. I had the feeling that she knew a lot more than she was letting on.
Please, if not for me, do it for Lynn.
I tried. I heard a faint, shaky intake of breath, as if she were trying to hold her steely persona together, but failing.
Marianne, what's wrong?
I started.
Benjamin, I don't know what to tell you. My only advice would be to seek professional help. Do not call here again. Goodbye.
I tried to call out to her, but she'd hung up. I tried to wrap my head around the call and her refusal to help me. Even if she didn't like me, why wouldn't she want to help her own daughter? I couldn't understand that. I tried to replay the conversation, desperate to find something I missed. After a while, I almost gave up, until I remembered her last words to me. Seek professional help. She had said those words with a bit of urgency. I could have just been grasping at straws, but no. I was sure her voice had changed ever so slightly when she'd said that, as if they were very important. What had she meant? I assumed she'd been referring to medical professionals, but maybe she was referring to someone else. Someone that she didn't, for some reason, feel comfortable saying directly. Or maybe I was just desperate. I waited for Chris to get home, and after a very long and exhausting conversation with him and Rebecca, I convinced them that Lynn truly needed psychiatric help. I didn't tell them everything. I wasn't prepared to go into it yet, but I told them about our last encounter. How she'd hidden in the bathroom, peeking at me from the closet. They were obviously shocked, but thankfully they believed me. They too just wanted to help her. Still, they didn't think it was all that serious. Weird, maybe, but not dangerous. They just kept saying that Lynn had to be playing some kind of weird joke.
Maybe for YouTube,
Rebecca offered, if only, half-heartedly. Chris didn't think we should involve the police just yet. He offered instead to go with me, and I readily accepted. Yeah, that's probably what I'd do too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, hey,
at the very
can you
least,
help me
having
wrangle?
someone else there.
Yeah, having someone else to like see the crazy shit as well, so that they know that I'm not just crazy.
Yeah,
and that would probably shatter my theory too, that he might be like it might actually be Ben that's mentally ill, not the wife.
Yeah, like if that, like, at the very least, that would give an answer as to what the fuck is going on. If Ben's just absolutely bad shit insane.
Yeah, for real.
Which isn't impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Although, it's kind of weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
That whatever this hallucination or whatever it is didn't go into the house that he's in now. Right. It was outside, but it didn't go in. Even though the wife was like offered by Rebecca to come in.
Yeah, if Ben was crazy, I feel like she'd be showing up everywhere.
Yeah, it would, because like hallucinations aren't going to just stick to, just
hallucinations
your house.
Don't have logic.
Yeah, they're a product of a mind doing something weird. It's not gonna, it's the brain picking up signals where there are none. So. It's not like yeah, it was outside the house, but it's never been inside, which is weird.
Yeah.
Of his brother's house. So weird shit.
It also isn't like a haunted house situation either, because it followed him to the brother's house.
Yeah, it would either have to be haunting either him specifically or his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the house itself that's haunted.
Mm. I have a fondness for just regular old haunted house stories. I do.
Yeah, they're good. Good stuff. Anyway, I'm still on the idea that if it's not her specifically, because I don't know. I still kind of feel like the whole bathroom thing seems physically impossible from the way I'm thinking about it. that if this isn't actually her, then it's some creature that's trying to mimic her and just wants to scare him. Or
Continuing
just
on,
gaslight him to
right?
craziness. Where were we?
He reasoned that calmly talking to her, trying to coax her into going willingly, was the best recourse. I agreed to do it his way. At least I wouldn't be going into that house alone. We drove over this morning just after breakfast. There was no way I was going at night. When we pulled into the driveway, my stomach began doing somersaults. Her car wasn't there, but I still didn't let my guard down. The front door was ajar, yeah?
One thing I noticed, right? I'm pretty sure when he left that night, wasn't it in the bath when he was in the bathroom, like she was supposed to be gone. I don't think that he mentioned that her car was there, but whatever it was that was outside her house, outside his house, and when she got there to the door, her car wasn't there.
Right.
Could it be that Lynn was with her mother, which is why, because there was, for some reason her mother wouldn't speak freely. I don't know.
Maybe that, or I think the creepier idea is that she somehow got into the car with him whenever he left.
That's worse. I hate that so much more. Which again, like how would she even do that? Like that would be, again, that leads to the idea that this thing can teleport or there's more than one, because that would be so fucking hard to do without him noticing.
Right.
Especially running out.
She could just be super, super sneaky though. It might not be supernatural.
But again, he ran out of the back because she was still in the bathroom when he fled. He ran down the stairs in nothing but his boxers, grabbed the keys, ran out the front door without closing it, managed to hop in the car and turn it on, and was driving like a bat out of hell. For her to be able to sneak into like the trunk of the car or something would be so fucking impressive in that mad dash, especially when he had a head start. That I don't know, that just doesn't seem physically possible without someone noticing, without him noticing.
Yeah, that fucks with me hardcore.
Anyway, I'm gonna keep distracting us.
Yeah, maybe. Oh man, I'm trying to find my place again. The front door was ajar. The front door was ajar, and for a split second, I thought we'd seen her eyes staring through the gate. I was shaking and starting to sweat. Chris, however, was fine. He waited for me to open the door, his hands in his pockets like he was going on a fucking stroll through the park. I envied his ignorance. I pushed the door open and was immediately hit with the stench of rot. Chris smelled it too, and he walked in the house behind me with his nose scrunched up. What do you got? Oh, sorry.
What do you guys use to clean the floors around here? Shit?
Chris mumbled. Chris is a dick.
Yeah. Fuck you, Chris.
Fuck you, Chris. You're a dick.
Shut up.
I said, my eyes darting around for any signs of Lynn. The house was deadly quiet and dark despite being 10 in the morning. All the curtains were closed up tight, refusing to allow any sunlight inside. If I hadn't left it just 2 days prior, I'd have thought the house to be abandoned. We moved through each room, carefully checking any place that she might hide, occasionally calling her name.
Why the fuck are you looking under the couch?
Chris asked eventually.
Aren't we looking for your wife?
He was looking at me like I was a moron.
So, I know Chris is assuming this is normal shit, but Chris, you're looking for someone who even you believe is having some sort of mental difficulty at this time.
I think he believes that Ben is going through something with his wife and maybe a little bit losing it. I don't think that he believes it's going to be serious. A serious thing.
Which again, the house is abandoned, and again, like maybe Ben is just crazy. Maybe Ben never had a wife. Maybe Ben is just a fucking lunatic. But like, I don't know. Like, if if I was Chris in this situation, and he's like, "Yeah, I think my wife is like losing her mind and needs to be committed," and you show up to the place and it smells like something's rotting and it looks abandoned, like that seems bad. Especially like it's just said rot, but I'm very familiar with what something which is dead smells like.
Mm-hmm.
So like every time I smell that, like especially if I'm in a place where there should not be something dead, like if I'm out in the woods and I smell like an animal carcass, I can pretty easily go, "Oh, it's just an animal carcass." But like if I'm in like a house and I smell something that smells of death, and for those who know, is when something smells dead, you will never forget what that smell is like. It is terrible. So like the hairs on the back of my neck stand up every time I smell it when it's not supposed to be there. So it's just like, yeah, that's not good. Anyway, uh, oh yeah, we start with a quote. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're
Let's
fine.
just go. Let's just go upstairs.
I whispered. He shook his head, but followed me up the stairs to check the bathroom and spare bedroom. On the way up, my shoes crunched over pieces of glass that looked to be littered over a few of the steps. I noticed that one of Lynn and my wedding portraits that hung on the wall along the staircase had been smashed. The frame hung crookedly, all the glass removed. I stared at the picture, a lump forming in my throat. We had taken the photo just after leaving the church, after saying our vows. She looked so beautiful in her white gown. I looked at Lynn's beautiful face. I never dreamed her face would ever be a source of terror for me. We climbed the rest of the steps and checked the spare bedroom, but it looked completely untouched. I wasn't hesitant to go into the bathroom. I was hesitant to go into the bathroom. My fear from that night coming back to me all at once. Chris noticed and offered to go in by himself, but I couldn't let him do that. So we walked in together, checking the closet and the shower. The bathroom looked as if it hadn't been touched since the night I left.
I don't think she's here, Ben. Why don't you pack some clothes and we'll try coming back tomorrow or something?
Chris said. I nodded and went into our bedroom and shoved some clothes into a duffel bag. When I checked inside our closet, I came across the source of the smell and gagged. Chris took one look and lost all color in his face. He had to stand by the stairs to get away from the sight and smell. I gazed down in shock at what lay inside my bedroom closet. Soaked into the rug, there were at least
What?
There were at least a dozen eyeballs. I don't know why I found that funny. I just did. Oh, no.
What?
All
A dozen eyeballs?
It didn't say they're human. Though that doesn't make it better. It kind of makes it better. All carefully laid out in pairs. Some were as large as a quarter, while others were as tiny as a marble. See?
Yeah.
I stared down at the eyes she'd collected from small animals, and I wondered how she'd gotten them, and shuddered at the thought.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Man, I thought I had it bad with Becca's shoe addiction, but fuck me. Your wife's in here collecting eyeballs. Chris, what the fuck are you doing?
Dude. You suck.
What the fuck are you on about? Chris, his wife is clearly insane. Chris, what the fuck? But your wife's in here collecting eyeballs.
Chris said gagging. Oh.
What a dick.
Fuck this guy, man.
Ben, I think we should go.
He called from the hall.
I'm getting nauseous. Yeah, fuck you, Chris.
Dude.
Chris, you're such a dick. Okay, like, I get that this sucks, but fuck you, Chris. I hate you more than Marianne. Oh, jeez. All right.
I grabbed my duffel and shut the closet door on my new nightmare. I stepped out into the hall and took a deep breath of air. I could taste the rot on my tongue, and I couldn't help but gag.
Okay, so at this point, they're 100% justified in calling the police, because you could at the very least argue that she's in such a state that she could be a danger to herself or others.
Like, if they're finding, like, the eyeballs of animals,
yeah,
like those could be the neighborhood dogs. Seriously.
yeah, like that at the very least is cause for concern. Like you should definitely be like calling the police to me like, hey, I think my wife had some sort of mental break. I left the house for a few days and came back, and there is a collection of eyeballs in her closet, and I can't find her anywhere. They're gonna show up, especially they're
gonna put out an APV with her description for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "Yep, we're on it. We need to figure this shit out." And be like, "Yeah, she keeps like jumping out at me and doing weird shit, and I'm pretty sure I saw her watching me while I slept the other day at my brother's place." They're gonna be like, "Yep, that's a crazy bitch."
They'll talk about a message that's gonna wig out an entire police department.
Yeah, like they're gonna be like, "Yep, we're on it."
Like, oh god, oh no, not one of these.
Where were we?
There's a friend of mine who's a police officer. I'd wonder if she had any stories like that. I'd love to ask her sometime.
Oh yeah, there's creepy. From what I've been told by my parents, well, not both my dad and the other cops in my family, they found some weird shit over the time. Honestly, one was not too long ago. My dad told me, like, this one wasn't something he personally found. There was I think they weren't a kindergartner, but like an elementary schooler who, content warning, guys, I guess.
Yeah.
Guys and gals who are listening, but this gets really dark really quickly. This girl was abused sexually by her father, who was in prison now, and she was living with like some family, but she had made a list of like a bunch of her schoolmates and planned on killing them by taking them to a barn. Now, the worst part about this barn is that she had collected numerous animals, like cats specifically, strung them up and gutted them, and planned on luring other kids from her school to that barn to kill them. She was in elementary school when this plan was made.
So she was crazy, but that's what happens whenever people get abused at a young age.
Yeah,
not like universally.
She's literally like in elementary school had this whole thing planned out. Oh, fucking God. Creepy as shit. I know she was from man, I don't want to place myself too much, but where I'm from, there is a power plant called Iatan, and I'm of the opinion, like, I'm not a superstitious person. I don't really believe in the supernatural, like, in reality. But I'm of the opinion that nothing good ever happens at Iatan. A bunch of people die at that power plant all the time, and a lot of people who work there have done like just horrendous shit to their own children, and it's bad all around.
That
like, I'm of the opinion
weird.
Yeah, it's like nothing good ever happens there. It's like what's the name of that one town where it's like Waco, Texas. Nothing good ever happens in Waco, Texas.
I mean,
it's
between
like nothing,
the tornado and the
Colts, and that time they lynched a black guy and then like sold his skin to like passersby. Yeah, right. Nothing good ever happens in Waco. I'm of the same opinion that nothing good ever happens at Iatan. Like, seriously, another thing for my dad, because I guess we're going really depressing today, is they had the school up there they fired the guidance counselor because numerous children went to her with stories of like how their parents would sexually abuse them, and the counselor did nothing.
What the
Ab-
fuck?
I know, like again, not too far from where I lived for a time, so I don't want to like place myself too much, but nothing good ever happens at Iatan. I'm of that opinion. I'm like, yeah, I never want to go there if I can help it, because
No.
again, I'm not superstitious, but when bad shit keeps happening in a certain place, it's like, nah, I don't want to go.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were living in the middle of a Stephen King novel. Holy fuck.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, honestly, like, again, I never lived there, but I lived nearby, and it was just like, yeah, fuck that.
Like, something is wrong about that town.
Yeah, it's like, fuck that place. I don't ever want to go there.
But the movie theater is great.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't live by there anymore. Like, the place I lived wasn't too bad besides, like, the occasional meth head. But like in comparison to Iatan, like that's child's play in comparison to
Fair.
what the fuck was going on up there. But
Yeah, back to the eyeballs.
yes, back to the much more much more family friendly eyeballs being found in the closet.
I think
right.
we were left off at I'm getting nauseous.
Oh fuck, I might have scrolled. Yes, I'm getting nauseous. All right.
I grabbed my duffel and shut the closet door on my new nightmare. I stepped out into the hall and took a deep breath of air. I could taste the rot on my tongue, and I couldn't help but gag.
Who the fuck lines up eyeballs in their closet like that?
Chris mumbled.
What a dick, Chris.
A crazy person, Chris. A crazy person.
Yeah, I tried to tell you she needed help, I said. Yeah. Yeah, you did. You did tell Chris.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Chris.
Yeah, fuck Chris. Chris sucks.
Why, Chris? Like, this is your brother. Why does your wife trust your brother more than you, Chris?
Ugh.
She doesn't. Oh, fuck you, Chris. As I was saying, she doesn't need help, Ben. She needs a fucking exorcist.
This
Fuck
guy,
you, Chris.
This guy talks like he's texting messages on Reddit.
He does. He sounds like a fucking Redditor.
Ugh.
Which
We
like
say reading a story that was written on Reddit.
Yes, but like I get like you witnessed something horrendous, Chris, but like you're such a dick. Like can you not be understanding for your brother right now? Like you're such an asshole.
Could he not just have them like a moderate bit of like taking the fucking situation seriously? Because like this is his
Like-
wife we're talking about.
Yeah, like this is your brother's wife. This is your sister-in-law. Can you not be a dick for like I understand being like wigged out, but like this is something that you wait until until Ben's not around and then you vent to your wife about. Like shut the fuck up, Chris. Anyway, he said, "You coming or what? I can't stand the smell any his yeah, end of quote."
Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I was looking at a weird tag I saw on my fucking desktop. Like, where'd that come from? Like a little... Sorry.
The ADHD allegations have got you.
No, that's undeniable for sure.
But yeah, we ended at "You coming or what? I can't stand the smell any." Which,
His words
again,
died in
it's
his throat. And his eyes grew wide with fear. I didn't ask him why. I could feel it. Someone was watching me, and I didn't think it was the eyes in the closet. I turned around, my eyes slowly scanning the bedroom.
Christ.
I whispered, as I finally saw what we'd missed. Under the bed, curled on her side, watching us with the excitement of a child on Christmas morning, was my wife. She held her hands together just under her chin, and they were shaking eagerly. I hate that.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Now that she
She's too
knew,
excited.
yeah, now that she knew she'd been found, I could hear the quiet noises she was making. a sort of hiccuping sound in her throat, as if the excitement was just too much for her. It was unnerving, to say the least. Wide eyes and that same huge smile. Everything in me told me to run, but I forced it away. This was my wife. No matter how twisted, she was still the woman I married. I had to help her.
Len,
I said softly. She didn't respond, but her head bobbed back and forth in 2 quick little movements, as if she were nodding.
baby, I just want to help, okay? Can you let me do that?
I asked. I had taken a single step forward, approaching her like some kind of dangerous animal.
I love you, Len.
I said softly, taking another step closer. She let a tiny moan escape her wide grin. I'm sorry, I can't read straight for whatever reason. She let a tiny moan escape her wide open mouth, and I had to resist the urge to run. Her shoulders were starting to quiver, and her eyes grew as large as saucers. I crouched down so I could see her better, and immediately saw the blood. Her hands were covered in it. They trembled more the closer I got, as if she was barely able to contain herself.
Len, are you hurt? You're bleeding.
I said. She bobbed her head again, her bloody fingers moving up and down as if playing an invisible piano. Fuck that. They occasionally grazed her chin, leaving smears of blood on her face. I wanted to recoil in disgust, but the smell was coming off of her. The smell that was coming off of her was revolting. I could feel the vomit trying to climb up my throat. Her lips were dry and stretched thin, blood seeping between the cracks. I knew she wouldn't come out on her own. But I didn't want to leave her in the state she was in. I scooted closer and reached out to her. The excited hiccuping sounds got louder and her hands shook, fingers flexing. It was then that I couldn't see the blood oozing from in between her fingers. I could see the blood oozing from... I'm sorry, I'm messing up the story.
No, you're good.
It was then that I could see the blood oozing from in between her fingers.
Oh my God, Len. You're bleeding.
I said. Instinctively, I reached out to take her hand, but before I could even touch her, her hand sprang out toward me. A sharp pain shot through my arm, and I fell back on my ass. My arm burned, and I could see the blood dripping out onto the carpet. I looked back at her in shock and saw her grinning madly, her fingers clutching a large shard of glass. That's what she was clutching.
You all right in there?
Chris asked from behind me.
Chris, you're such a fucking dick.
Chris is the worst.
God. He's terrible, man.
I turned my head slightly and nodded to him, cradling my arm to my chest. When I turned back to face Lynn, I saw that her face had shifted. She wasn't looking at me anymore, and she wasn't smiling anymore either. She was staring past me, her eyes glaring at Chris the way a hungry lion might stare at an antelope. Her mouth was still hanging open, but it was twisted into a snarl. I got to my feet and began walking backwards down the hall, afraid to take my eyes off her.
Are you bleeding?
Chris asked.
No shit, Chris.
Chris is really slow on the intake, isn't he?
Okay, I have an official autism diagnosis, so I can say this one.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, you are autistic as fuck. You're slow as shit, man.
Oh, Jesus.
You are so fucking slow. God, you're such a dick, Chris. I hate you so much. Okay, again, but while I still have the rant stick, while I still have the talking stick.
Go ahead.
If this isn't his wife, if this is something else, this kind of plays into the whole idea that it's like some sort of predator, right? Like thing. Because while it did hurt Ben, it seems to like enjoy the playfulness of it. But when
Yeah.
it sees Chris, when it realizes Chris is there, it wants to kill him. Like it hates that Chris saw it.
I
But
mean, to
like
be fair,
for
I
some
think I'd
reason-
react that way to Chris too.
I mean, yeah, I wanna stab Chris too. Chris is an asshole. Fuck you, fuck Chris. Yeah,
Fuck Chris.
hate
All my
Chris.
homies hate Chris.
Ugh. Like, God, Chris has no self-awareness. Like, how is he this fucking dense, bro? Like, lead isn't as dense as Chris is.
Yeah, what's the densest
Fuck.
element again?
Clearly, whatever Chris is made out of.
Thick hedium. I don't care what it is.
Icadium. So yeah, are you bleeding, Chris?
The moment the words left his mouth, Lynn started fast scooting out from under the bed. Ugh. The glass shard still in her fist.
Chris, run, go.
I yelled, "That's not what I'd say. I'd say, Chris, your shoes is untied," and then run past him.
I don't have to be the fastest. I just have to be faster than you, Chris.
He must have been too afraid to move because a second later I felt my back bump into him. He was still standing at the top of the stairs, staring at the horror that was my wife.
Well, that's no way to call your wife. You can't just call her a whore.
Horror. Horror. Horror.
It was right there. I'm sorry. It was right there.
Yeah, me and my whore wife. Oh my god.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Ben's wife is kind of bad, though.
Yeah, she's not great. She's a bit rough. Lynn needs some help.
Lynn's oh man, you didn't get the joke. I was saying she's kind of bad though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, either way, that's funny as fuck.
Oh,
I don't know
man.
what's funnier, you getting the joke or you not getting.
I still don't think I get the joke, but that's on me.
It's okay.
okay.
Most of my jokes don't land.
Don't explain it to me. It's funnier that I don't get it.
Where were we? Chris, run, go! He yelled. Staring at the horror that is my wife.
Lynn had crawled completely out from under the bed and stood in the bedroom doorway, her face twisted in rage. Her whole body was visibly tense. Blood ran down her fingers and onto the floor.
Jesus, Lynn,
Chris said.
you God, fuck you, Chris. You playing hide and seek.
Chris is autistic. Chris is so autistic. Holy fuck.
He's gotta be autistic. Like, there's no way he's this dense. Like, what a dumb motherfucker.
I reached back and pushed him towards the steps.
Again, I say this as someone who is autistic. Fuck you, Chris.
Chris,
Move your ass, Chris.
Chris deserves to die, I think.
He does.
And I think he's about to.
There's no way he survives this.
If Chris survives and Ben doesn't, I'm going to be so mad.
Yeah, I agree. Move your ass, Chris. I said as quietly but firmly as I could.
Lynn bobbed her head in fast, sharp motions and began to grin, stretching her mouth open wider and wider so that her chin seemed to touch her chest. Fuck that. I heard Chris mutter a prayer, and then he was running down the stairs. I stood at the top of the steps, stuck between the love for a woman who clearly needed serious help, and self-preservation.
I only want to help,
I said, choking back tears. Her eyes focused on me once again as she slowly lifted the glass, holding it out in front of her. And then she started sprinting towards me, grinning with utter excitement. Thankfully, my body took over and I flew down the stairs, skipping past 2 or 3 at a time. I made it to the front door, and I felt her leap onto my back, wrapping her arms around my neck, her open mouth next to my ear so that I could hear those terrible hiccuping sounds up close. I shook her off me, knocking her on the floor. I felt a searing pain in my back as she went, but I tore open the front door and bolted to my car. Chris in the front yard, talking on the phone with... Chris was standing in the front yard, talking on the phone with the police. I didn't say a word. I just ran to my car and jumped in. Chris took the hint and followed me, still on the line with 911. I watched the rearview mirror, sure I'd seen her there, running after us, but wait. I'm reading that wrong. Oops. I watched the rearview mirror, sure I'd see her there, running after us, but I never did. I went straight to the ER and got 11 stitches in my arm, and 3 on my back. The police asked a lot of questions and went back to the house to do a search, of course, but of course, Lynn wasn't there. Wow, I'm having a really hard time reading this.
Hey, it's almost done.
Yeah. They advised me to stay with a friend or relative for a while and to file a restraining order as soon as I could, but none of those things would matter. Somehow, I just knew.
Yeah, I think this restraining order is going to work. Guys, trust me.
I dropped Chris off at home and went to a motel an hour away. I wanted to put as much distance between me and Lynn as I could. So you only drove an hour?
Yeah, like, come on, man.
I'd be on a road trip to Vegas, buddy.
Yeah, I'd be in several different states by this point.
This is where I've been for the last 4 hours. I thought maybe the police would find her, or maybe they'd get her the help she desperately needs. But now I don't think so. Because 40 minutes ago, I got a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words.
I found you.
And a picture attached. The picture was dark and grainy, but I instantly knew what it was. There was no mistaking my wife's eye. I started typing this out immediately after. I don't know what to do. I'm alone and scared, and I can't help but feel that I'm being watched. Man, that was a story.
Wow. Yeah, that was far better than the last one.
Yeah, seriously.
Again, I think the Redditors on r/yandere would really enjoy this one.
Is there really a r/yandere?
Yes, there is.
Wow.
I have seen it. It exists.
Oh, God.
But yeah. Yeah, I think that was a lot better than the weird baby daddy.
Sugar daddy thing, yeah.
Yeah, sugar daddy, yeah. It was, but yeah, the glucose guardian, if you will. I knew a kid in high school who would always say that. It's always the funniest fucking thing. It's like, shut the fuck up, Chris. I'm pretty sure that was his name, too, was Chris.
I just know that whenever we are reading more of these stories in the future, that anytime we encounter someone named Chris, we're going to be immediately like,
fuck this guy.
Fuck this guy. Chris sucks.
Again, like, okay, I don't know if she just took a picture of, like, her own eye. But, like, again, like, that, I feel like there's interpretation there that maybe it was her eye was, like, taken out by whatever this possessed thing is. Because, like, how the fuck is it sending a text and, like, the police weren't like, maybe we should track her phone?
Right.
I mean, well, it is an unknown number, so. But, again, that leaves the question, where's the crazy person getting a fucking phone?
So I know this is just a trope of, like, no sleep specifically. I think that's, like, in their rules that the stories that are uploaded here need to seem like they're coming from the first-person perspective of someone who's experiencing the things that happen in the story.
Yeah, I don't like... I wish that last line didn't exist, because I think that would have been a lot better of an ending just to saying there was no mistaking my wife's eye.
Yeah.
Or even just ending on "I found you." But like I started typing this out immediately. It's like, dude, get back in the fucking car and
Because,
drive.
like, it's sort of like, if I got a message like that, and I thought that I was pretty far away from where this person who was chasing me was, I
Mm.
wouldn't then spend 2 hours writing my story on my laptop, you know?
Yeah, that's a like, I'm gonna call the police now because it's like, hey, I'm being stalked by someone who like I just got out of the ER and
Like,
have like 11 stitches from. Could you send over a patrol car or something?
like, find me somewhere that's going to be safe. Just put
Yeah,
me somewhere safe, because a shady motel is not the place. That's
yeah,
like the hallmark of places where you go to get murdered.
yeah. And like she's so clearly out of her mind that it's like if this isn't like some supernatural weird shit going on, if she is just like mentally ill, then like she's so far gone that she couldn't possibly like fit in society anymore. It would be like she's so far gone out of it that like she's literally collecting fucking eyes of animals and shit.
Yeah, for
You
real.
know,
Man, that was a pretty good story. What would you rate it out of between, like, on a scale of like 1 to 10?
honestly, I'd say up until like that last line, we had it at a 10. Like I know like that's like an expectation, so like I can't ding it too much. But it's like I just wish like that didn't exist because it was perfect up until that point. Like otherwise, I
Man.
think it's pretty good. Hate Chris, but
Chris honestly takes a full point off the story for me. I'm not
yeah,
joking.
Chris.
Because he's
I
not
just read
acting
a
like a real person. He's acting like
yeah,
a dumb character in a story.
yeah. He feels like intentionally dumb. Um,
And that last line, it takes a
yeah,
point off for me too.
yeah.
I
It
would give this as like a 7 out of
Yeah,
10.
I'd say maybe 7 or 8 for me.
Which, by the way, a 7 is a pretty good score.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Whenever I would have given the last story like a 3, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, last story was like maybe a little creepy. Maybe a 4 if we're being generous.
The problem is it talks about creepy things potentially happen, but then nothing really that creepy ever does.
Yeah. I'm just reading the comment section and someone said, I don't know why, but I imagine that one Billie Eilish album cover. Another person, I literally could not picture anything but the quote obsessive girlfriend unquote mean girl. Man, that's an old one. That dates
Oh,
us.
yeah, that's for sure. Let's see, when did the story come out? I'm scrolling to the top. It came out
Um,
2 years ago.
so yeah.
Not that old. Wasn't it
Again,
like a distorted version of the overly attached girlfriend, like, meme? What they used as the template for, like, the, what was it
the
called? Jeff
that
the Killer.
Momo. uh,
Jeff the
I
Killer.
wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Jeff the Killer, like I could never be like even back in the day when I first saw that, I could never be scared of that face because it just looked so goofy to me.
I don't know. It always creeped me out whenever I was a kid.
Like it was creepy, but like it was one of those things where it's like it's creepy, but if I look at it long enough, it's just like man, that
It
looks
starts to get
goofy as
funny.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, oh man. Well, I had a lot of fun reading that. How about you?
that was fun. I liked that. Again, I like that it's kind of open ended, as if like anything supernatural happened. Again, it sounded like things that were seemed physically impossible happened, and there's sort of the mystery with like, was the mom like, did she know something?
Yeah, yeah. I felt like that was almost one of the more creepy parts of the story. Subtly. Whenever the
Yeah,
mom just wouldn't talk to him and like wouldn't communicate with him about what was going on.
yeah. Like, I wonder if is there like a part 2 to this? Because like that was interesting.
I don't think so. From what I'm
That's a
seeing here,
shame.
usually whenever they have part twos to stories, they will
Yeah,
link that in the first episode, either in like a
that's
comment on below or like at the bottom of the first part. Like, we're gonna cover a story later on. I'll mention it right now. Uh, where we're going to do the Stairs in the Woods.
Oh, I love those ones.
Yeah,
It's been a minute, but I really like those.
But
As
that's a
someone who
multiple.
likes going through the woods,
Yeah,
I love
that's a
those.
multiple part story though. So we're
Yeah,
going to have to read that one in parts. Maybe do like a couple parts at a time.
yeah. That one's a long.
Yeah, I'm planning on doing that one, but not next. The next story, from what I can see, is called "Something Walks Whistling Past My House Every Night at 3:03."
Oh man, I think I've heard that one before.
Yeah, I've heard other people read this one before online, but it's now our turn. Thank you guys for listening, and join
Yeah.
us for the next episode, because I'm sure you
Hell
will.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Bless and sleep with the nightlight on. Have a good
Don't
day,
let-
y'all.
Don't let your wife smile too much.
Yeah,
That's
genuinely.
that's the message from this story. Wife should not smile.
Don't let your wife smile. Happiness is illegal.